LAPD raids in Rancho San Pedro, RSP. You ever been down to those projects?
Around, yep, around that area.
I think they only got 2 projects down there. One they tore down, which is the ones they just tore down a couple of years back, where the
Dodge Cities was at.
no, where the Bloods was at. There was
Bloods in what? San Pedro?
not San Pedro. I consider just the whole harbor area.
Oh, okay. Probably the ghost towns.
Was it the ghost towns? I actually did an interview. I did an interview with these brothers. We even went to the new spot where they rebuilt the whole.
Because out there you got Waterfront Pyro, Ghost Town, and that's the only Domos that way.
I guess the waterfronts, they were in the projects.
Mm-hmm.
They had to be in the projects, and the Rancho San Pedro projects are still there. They're still alive and well.
Yeah, I think they kind of got a stronghold. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they pretty much been dominating that area for a long time. Let me pull up. Let me see where my notes at on this. Well, let's just go straight to a clip, and then we'll talk about it. Here's a clip on a LAPD FBI raid on a whole bunch of dudes, allegedly from Rancho San Pedro.
Federal and local authorities have conducted a series of raids in San Pedro, targeting members and also associates of the Mexican Mafia.
Multiple people have been taken into custody. KTLA 5's Lauren Lister live now in San Pedro, where officials are announcing the results of the operation. Lauren.
Yeah, Glenn and Lou, they are just wrapping up giving those announcements inside the police department here. Now, what we are told are that 13 people were taken into custody as part of these arrest and search warrants served at 17 locations early this morning, involving multiple law enforcement agencies, hundreds of personnel, all targeting what they say is one of the most violent and dominant gangs here in the LA Harbor area, known as Rancho San Pedro.
Today marks an important day in basically cutting off the head of the Hydra of one of the most violent street gangs that has been terrorizing San Pedro for years.
Take a look at some of the scenes playing out in multiple locations early this morning in San Pedro with the FBI, the LAPD, U.S. Homeland Security investigations. Now, they tell us this investigation has been going on for years, involving hundreds of law enforcement personnel. The FBI says they were able to target the upper echelon of what they say is this very violent gang. 14 people are charged in a federal complaint that will be released later today. Authorities say Rancho San Pedro Enterprise is a gang with an estimated 500 members that dates back to the 1970s and is divided into cliques operating under the control of the Mexican Mafia, of members that are incarcerated in California state prisons. The complaint includes RICO, which are racketeering and conspiracy charges, along with drug and weapons-related charges.
The targets of RICO conspiracy and others participated in the RSP enterprise in a variety of ways. Some would use orders from prison on behalf of the Mexican Mafia. These orders include the collection of taxes, drug distribution, firearms, transfers, and decisions about who held what positions within the RSP. Others committed or conspired to commit acts of violence, including murder, to preserve and expand RSP's criminal enterprises and to enhance their own status within the gang.
All right, man, we get the point. What I found interesting in this is that they're calling the gangs now enterprises because it just sounds so good in a federal indictment, huh?
I caught that because they did that with the 60s.
Yeah, the big U. It was the big U enterprise.
Right.
So now it's the RSP, Rancho San Pedro Enterprise.
Right.
That's a new language that we're not used to hearing. That's some 2025 new approach to, I guess, representing LA gangs.
Yeah, they got these words that's supposed to grab the attention of the jurors, and then the public. When you say enterprise, when people gather, they call it takeovers. You know they do.
According to the KABC News, it says here 17 state and federal search warrants were served at various locations across the neighborhood as part of a multi-year investigation by the LAPD and HSI, Homeland Security. Several other agencies also carried out the operation. This investigation targeted the Rancho San Pedro gang, which operates under the control of the Mexican Mafia, who are incarcerated in California state prisons. According to an FBI press release, this gang is estimated to consist of 500 members. Hey, I laugh at that because almost every gang that's under investigation or charged or indicted has between 500 and 1,000 members. That's like their go-to number.
Well, it seems like every time it's a Hispanic gang that's under scrutiny, Homeland Security got something to do with it.
Yeah, that's
not the case with the black gangs. You notice?
No, I haven't really looked at that yet, but we'll wait for the next black gang indictment and see if Homeland Security is involved in that, because Homeland Security has definitely been making a name for themselves in 2025.
Only when it's dealing with Hispanic gangs. Watch, we gonna see.
Starting with the ICE raids.
Mm-hmm.
But if so check this out. LA has counted consistently over the years about 40,000 gang members in the city. 40,000. So if you have 40,000 gang members, I'm doing the math on this, and there's approximately 450 gangs in the city, counting the Mexicans too. So if you divide that 40,000 by 450 gangs, you roughly have about just under 100 members per gang. It says 88 members. But if you use this 500 number that they use, right, and you take that and multiply it by 450 gangs in the city. So if we got 450 gangs in the city and they always say that there's 500 members, we are talking about 225,000 gang members in the entire city. That's not possible. That number's impossible, 225,000.
Well, they're not supposed to be including the incarcerated gang members. You know what I'm saying?
And they shouldn't include people who haven't been identified as a gang member in several years. So let's say you got identified, Munchie B, and let's say you got identified in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
They FI card you 2017, but in since 2017 you haven't been identified. They're supposed to take you out of the database after 5 years of no contact. So in let's say if that contact was 2017, in 2022 they're supposed to purge you out. We haven't seen Munchie B in 5 years, so we're gonna purge him out of the database. But they usually don't, and they'll keep counting you as a member for many years to come.
All right, they shouldn't count. All right, so I was in Ironwood State Prison, which is in the city of Blythe, and that's not a big city. So when they count the population of the city, is they including the population of the inmates in that prison?
I think they do, but you see, an inmate in a prison cannot be counted twice. So if someone goes to that person's family home, for let's say the census is counting people, and they say, hey, how many people live here? The mom might include her son, even though he's in prison, and then he's getting counted in prison in that county.
I don't think they count them, that population that's in the prison.
That's a good question. Do they count? Where do they count prisoners?
I don't think they count them. So they shouldn't be counted when you calculating these members of these gangs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
because they out the way. The same way we can't vote while we in jail. I think that should be a thing. I think people should be able to vote while they in prison.
Well, has anybody ever tried to push that?
I doubt it.
Because that's the only way it's going to happen. Somebody, a prisoner, got to file a lawsuit and then make a precedent.
Because these laws affect the prisoners. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so it says here that the U.S. Census counts inmates at the location of their correctional facility as part of its usual residence rule. However, this federal policy is controversial and has led to over a dozen states to pass their own laws that reallocate inmate populations to their last known address before being incarcerated. So there's not a clear, there's not a universal understanding on how to count prisoners. They're doing it both ways.
Yeah, man, that's the forgotten population, man. I ain't counting them people.
But I'm almost certain that if we drove through Rancho San Pedro, and let's not just one time, but we drove through there multiple times, we pulled out, we walked around, we hung out with them. You know how difficult it would be for us to count 500 members over the course of, let's say we did that for 3 months. You ain't gonna count 500 dudes.
They supposed to specify 500 members with 90 active members.
Sometimes they do that, but they didn't do that here. Yeah.
Because let's keep it real. When you go to any neighborhood, if you go for 3 weeks straight, you basically seeing the same faces.
Exactly.
You're not seeing like it's not like a shopping mall where it's new faces that come through every day. So yeah, they got to get that right.
It would be a great study to compare the government's number on gangs and then have people actually go out there and show like, hey, I went out there for 2 months and I was able to meet 40 IFGs. I met 40 IFGs over a 3-month period, and the police is saying, I think they've used the number 1,000 with your neighborhood before in the past.
Because if you ranging back to when Inglewood family was founded in the early 70s, all the way to 2025, 2026, and then you including members that ain't been around in 20 years, and then some that's in jail and that's not around, and come on, ain't no telling if they including people that's deceased, like, you know what I'm saying? But if you go to any hood, Inglewood, Compton, Long Beach, South Central, and if you hang around for a month straight, you're gonna see the same faces. You're not gonna see this 500 people they talking about. You gonna see the same 30. Yeah. Unless it's the hood day. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, they gotta get that right with the numbers, man. And y'all heard it here first. They need to let the inmates vote.
So my question to you, Munchie, is why do you think law enforcement likes to use these extremely inflated numbers, 500, 800, 1,000? Why do you think they consistently use these in these articles and these press releases?
To get what they need done and to manipulate the public that really ain't privy and aware of what's really going on. You know what I'm saying? Get laws passed, make stuff seem way worse than what it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's exactly what it is. I think I was reading one of the Blackstone indictments. They said it was 1,200 members. Of course, the jungles, you can get away with that because it's a more dense, higher populated area. Mm-hmm. But it ain't 1,200 people, hanging out.
Yeah. Because it's like a parade every day if that's the case.
Yeah, they indicted like 50 dudes, and then not all 50 of those dudes are even from Blackstone.
Any indictment, whenever they come down with an indictment, everybody in that indictment not gonna be from that particular gang.
Okay, and then the other issue I wanted to say about this indictment is they love to throw that Mexican Mafia label in there, and in many instances that's also an exaggerated expression just to create a little bit fear in the community and in the courts, because everybody knows that the Mexican Mafia, they got a treacherous little history. And as long as the law enforcement can tie in what these dudes do in prison to what a bunch of guys is doing on the streets, it bolsters their case.
And they got to know these people, a large percentage of them never have met none of these Mexican Mafia members.
And never will. And they never will.
Never will.
And most of the activities, not all, but most of the activities that these guys are doing is not even related to the Mexican Mafia. The guy gets arrested with a gun, he got a gun offense. Mm-hmm. Now, there is some taxing that's going on. I ain't naive to that. There is some taxing going on, and certain guys in certain neighborhoods are paying the taxes, but not everybody's paying the tax because not everybody's out there on the block hustling.
Right.
So it's not tied in to the Mexican Mafia as these press releases make it seem. And then, of course, in court, the same thing happens. And I've been on cases where judges have told the prosecution, I don't want to hear nothing about the Mexican Mafia in any of your questions with this detective.
Right, because that's a tool to taint the jury.
Yeah. He said, this is not a Mexican Mafia case. You guys haven't presented no evidence linking any of these guys to the Mexican Mafia. So I'm not going to allow any Mexican Mafia questions. And that's the way it's, and I usually agree with that when a judge says that, because they know what the prosecution is trying to do.
Especially if the defendant never been to the penitentiary. I don't want to hear that.
Yeah, but there's been a few cases where they are allowed to bring that in, and there's usually a bigger link between the guys on the streets and the guys in the prison. But yeah, that's another issue that this indictment brings up. But